Hey everybody, this is your review for information about the Great Plains Native Americans and the region that they lived in. So we're going to start with the study guide. So if you'd like to, please go ahead and type your name right here. So whenever you turn your paper in, we will know who it belongs to. Your vocabulary words are lodge, teepee, travois, and powwow. So let's get started. For number one, a home made of buffalo skins and long poles. That would have been called a teepee. It can be spelled different ways. Some ways you might see it would be that as well. A large round hut built over a deep hole. That would be a lodge. Usually that would be for the colder months. The teepees would be for the warmer months when they were following the buffalo over the Great Plains. Number three, a kind of sled made of poles and skins to transport goods across the plains. That would have been a travois, usually pulled either by a horse once they were domesticated from the Spanish who arrived, or possibly a wild dog. Number four, a ceremony or gathering of Native American Indians that often included dancing, games of the past. So that would be called a powwow. Kind of like a ceremony, basically. So then for the questions, for number five, why was the buffalo so important to the Plains Indians? So for this one, you could say a lot of things, but we would say natives used all parts of the buffalo for food, shelter, tools, clothing, and never, ever wasted. Every Native American, even to this day, is very respectful and thankful of what nature gives them, and they never waste anything that they are given. For number six, how did their way of life change after the horse arrived with the arrival of the Spanish European explorers? So we could say, let me move this over. We could say their lives changed after horses arrived with the Spanish because they could hunt the buffalo and travel more easily, because then they could actually hook the travois sled up to the horse and they could travel further distances at a quicker pace. Number seven, why do you think the Cheyenne Plains Native American Indians keep their cultural traditions alive even to this day? Well, if you actually look online, you can actually see that even today, the Cheyenne live on a reservation in Montana, and they remember their culture to pass it on to future children, to the future generations of their tribe. They want to make sure that their history, their culture is passed on. And then just like you did with the Eastern Woodlands, here the question is asking, what resources did the Great Plains natives use and how did they use them? So for the buffalo hide, they could use that to make their homes, their teepees on the Great Plains. Rivers could give them fish. The trees could help them build their teepee homes. And then if we said the buffalo also could help them create tools and possibly weapons. And if you haven't already seen the buffalo diagram that shows you all the things you can actually make from a buffalo, You will be seeing that soon. So this is your study guide for the Great Plains Native Americans. So just take a look back through there if you need to. And then now we're going to move on to the fill in the blank. So this is kind of just a great way to summarize everything you've learned about the Great Plains. So in honor of the buffalo, I'm going to use a brown color for this fill in the blank. So it says Plains Indians. The Plains Indians lived in an area that stretched from the blank river to the blank mountains and from central blank to northern blank. So for this one, it would be from the Mississippi, Mississippi River, to the Rocky Mountains, and from central Canada to northern, the opposite would be Mexico. Oh, well, or you could say northern Texas, but Mexico is actually right under that. The area had few blank and water was scarce. Well, there were open prairies, open plains, so they had very few trees. Okay, so that's your first paragraph. The blank Indians lived in villages near rivers and built blank. Okay, so they are the Great Plains Indians, and they built two types of houses. They had the teepees, and then they also had the lodges. So those are the two main types of houses. When they were hunting buffalo, of course, they were traveling, they were migrating, so they would be in the teepees. The teepee was popular because it was easy to pack and move quickly. The Plains Indians used poles to form a sled to carry things. Dogs and horses were used to move the travois. That was their way of saying the sled in their language. Okay, and then for the next paragraph, it talks about the buffalo, which is so important to this region. So another way you could say buffalo would be bison. So we're going to say buffalo and then slash bison was the main source of food. You could say tools for that. You could say clothing and shelter for the Plains Indians. The buffalo was also used for tools. Oh, see, there's tools there, so you could just use clothing there. Tools and weapons. Buffalo hunting became easier when they got the horse. The horse from the Spanish. And then your next paragraph. The men hunted the buffalo, while the women on the plains gathered and cooked the food. The women also dried the buffalo skins. Women of the tribe enjoyed making crafts like beaded necklaces and other jewelry. Music and blank, sometimes at powwows, were an important part of Plains tribal blank. So here you could say dancing. That was very important at powwows because the dance would tell a story. And they were an important part of the Plains tribal, you could say, traditions. You could also say culture. So both or either of those would be great. So please make your corrections on your paper. If you have any questions, please let us know. And please make sure that you also go over your Quizlet because you're going to be having a quiz on the Great Plains and the Eastern Woodlands together.